you going to say, Auntie? You said you had something to add.
I just wanted to go back to Bridget. She's also had a bout with cancer.
Oh, yeah.
She had that, and she survived that.
My mother is a breast cancer survivor.
She's a straight-up survivor, period.
Yeah.
But as a child, she was just like you. Mm-hmm. She loved books. She spent too much time alone because I had to work more than one job here in San Francisco, in the city of San Francisco. But Bridget was always, she was a great student, but she had no patience for authority.
Mm-hmm. That sounds just like me.
It sounds like all of us.
All of you.
Yeah.
I'll attest to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds about right. I believe that.
So when she puts her mind to something, you know, she can get it done.
Yeah.
She planned this trip. She got funded for this trip. Mm-hmm. She really put this trip out there, you know, what was happening at the school. And she got the same reaction.
Yeah.
You know, a woman like you having a daughter graduating from Harvard.
Yeah.
Big impact that changed her life. So now she's getting asked to be a speaker. She's getting, and she's secretary at the AA. But, you know, I'll let her share her life with you, but it definitely impacted her life for the positive, and it's got her doing a lot of positive things. So,
Auntie, can you talk about what this weekend means for you, just given all that you've had to sacrifice in raising?
What does it mean? Okay, for just me, not my family.
Just like as you, 'cause I feel like you are like, I know everybody doesn't watch Game of Thrones, but I feel like, so in Game of Thrones, there's a character named Bran, and Bran holds all the history of all of the past, you know, like he's the only person
she does that.
You know, and I feel like you have been like the family historian. You collect the pictures, you know where everybody's at, you kind of have your tab on everybody. Like Waleena says, she feels like this is her responsibility to be you, essentially, is what I heard. And so given all that you've seen through addiction, you know, from your parents, addiction from my mother and her siblings, you know, the carceral system, all of my brothers are incarcerated, all of them, you know, for really long sentences. And all of them except for one.
Or they have been.
Yeah. And even the one who's not has been really impacted by the same stuff that we're talking about. But you've kind of been the gatekeeper of everybody's story. What has this experience been like for you just this weekend? What are you thinking about?
I think this is my contribution that I would have made had I continued at Northeastern. Mm-hmm. I would have been the first one. But because of all of that, you know, mess that went on in our family, I didn't make it, but I still can.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
That's what it means to me. I can still do it too.
Mm.
Well, you know, I'm radical. I just, you know, I start with the slave thing, and I listen to the stuff that came from my grandmother more than my aunt. She listened to my aunt. And when I came here to Boston in 1969, we were just segregating, okay? Boston was segregated, sort of, but Memphis wasn't. It was just starting to. And right after Martin Luther King got killed, they opened up the colleges to black kids, and I was one of them. You know, I got a 5-year scholarship and everything, but because I already had a baby, it was pretty hard to continue everything. So when I got a chance for, you know, you guys, I thought, okay, one of you's got to make it in my mind. So I just visualized it. One got out, but still got 3 more that's going to make it too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what it means to me. Our people, black people, making a contribution, and then the way this contribution is going down is that there'll be new changes in this world because of what happened in our family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more we talk about, you know, the ways that we are affected, Waleena calls me all the time with these new revelations. Girl's like, girl, listen, I was sitting by myself and thinking, you know, and I think it's incredibly powerful that you're able to even reflect in that way. And I think that's something that I do and I value. And I think the more people talk about their stories and their histories, the easier people will get in the habit of reflecting on themselves. So quick story. When I was in undergrad, I was recognized for like my scholarship and leadership in at Bennett, and they did a whole filming that aired on BET, and it was a really big thing. Now, at the time I was studying abroad, at the time that it aired, I was studying abroad in China. This is my mother. Wow, this is great. This is great news. Yeah, thank you. So I'm gonna pause live.
All right. Then.
Hello? Hello? What'd you say?
You here?
Let me text her. So Jerry went out to go get her. At the time that it aired, I was in another country and I logged online, Facebook. I had like hundreds of notifications, and I was like, something must be happening. Mm-hmm. And when I clicked on it, a bunch of people were like, yo, Delrisha, I had no idea you were in foster care. Yo, like, me too, right? Mm-hmm. I got a lot of me too's. I got a lot of people saying, like, my brother was da-da-da, my mom is a foster parent, or, wow, I didn't know, you know, your mother struggled with addiction. Like, I got a lot of those things, and so all the things that I thought about in my head that I had associated as only my issues, that's when that experience gave me permission to tell my story more. Mm-hmm. And at Bennett, I started, like, having public speaking engagements based off of this story. So I got in the practice of telling the story.
Right.
And I realized that in telling the story, I was grappling with things that I'd always suppressed.
Right.
And I realized in telling the story that I had a lot more healing to do.
Right.
And I also realized that in telling the story that I was finding more peace with our family's history, and it made me want to be more active about how to bounce back from it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is the power, I think, in this experience.
For sure. I know, too, when we were growing up, when we were in foster homes, we would go to school and say, oh, we live with our auntie. It was, like, embarrassing. It was like, your mom is like, no, stay in the car, right? It's like, one of our foster parents, I forgot to bring the obituary, she made us share cell phones. 2 people per one cell phone. And so Darisha and I would switch off every other day. And we're like, we would lie to people and be like, oh, I left my phone at home the day we didn't have the phone, right? And so it's like, it is something, it's like something we don't want to talk about, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Something that does need to be talked about, because even going back to Richmond as an adult, I would see so many people going through what we've been through, what we're going through, but the difference is like their mindset versus mine. And a part of it, the difference is the outlet that I have, which is you guys, right? These people don't have that. So it's like they're still harboring and holding on to trauma, and it's like eating them alive. Like it's internal poison because they're not dealing with it. So yeah, I definitely appreciate this opportunity.
Well, for us, it was like, you know, we dealt with the trauma because everybody else had trauma at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, imagine a 10-year-old, you know, in the corn liquor, having to be a part of that, you know.
Yeah.
When they send the petty wagon to get them and stop the card game, and we'd have to dispose of it. And
crazy.
It's like an old movie, like, you know, the Beverly Hillbillies or something, you know. But we didn't put that much heart into it because we just kept moving. Whatever happened just happened, and we just moved to the next thing. I think it built us in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Where we weren't totally shattered once we got outside of that environment.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have time to be traumatized at work.
You know,
and I think that's the part of it too, right? It's like the time that we have. Like time has slowed down drastically, like today versus y'all time. It's like we have time. You see people say at 30 years old, take your time. Like that's all you have. So for us, it's like we have more time to go through what we're going through and allow it to affect us, as opposed to you guys just hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the difference in today. That's a good point, Auntie. Has she made it?
So she ended up at another Plimpton somewhere else.
Oh my God.
So we won't have her on the episode today.
Okay.
But I do think that we have, you know, I really wanted her to be here because I think her story is so powerful and she's so resilient. And I think in a lot of ways, like yesterday, she, you know, came to Black Grad and she was just like, you know, we had dinner and she went on to say like, you know, you really, like she said, the reason why I'm doing all this literally is because, like, I'm inspired by you doing this. Like, that's why I can see myself. And in a lot of ways, we've learned our resilience from her. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I don't think she gives herself credit for that. Mm-hmm. I think she kind of feels guilty because of...
I don't think anybody ever talks about her resilience.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I think we go from, because the behavior, her behavior can be has been so explosive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the monumental thing that you learn, but you have to learn why she even uses it. And it's because of being outside all the time, you know, when she was in her addiction. Being outside, being loud, learning how to carry her voice and keep people away from her. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, when she's in recovery, you hear people say, oh, she was the best friend I ever had. Mm-hmm. In prison, you hear the women say, you know, you were the best person for me to be around.
People speak so highly of her.
They speak so highly of her.
Yeah.
You know. Mm-hmm. And I think it maybe just time she tells her story and maybe she'll get that same piece. I know when she does, when she gets the audience for it and people hear it, then they're not
as disarmed. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But she's told it a couple of times. She's in the Tenderloin library with the film that they did on her, Love You Tenderloin.
Yeah.
And she got involved she's been involved in her community. One thing, the single thread that runs in our family is community involvement. As far back as, you know, I can remember, our whole family on both sides has had community involvement. Mm-hmm. My cousin in L.A., when she passed away and we went to the funeral, she had like 9 ministers. She got 3 accommodations, one from the city, state, and federal government, all presented right there. She had a barbecue place in the church. This is in South Central L.A. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And the other common thing in our family, and I think we took that a step further too, was churches, Bible belief. And I took it a different level because I was a research student, which made it more practical and brought me into a whole different world of lifestyle. So that's where I am now. I'm like a senior. I just got a 30-year commentation because they couldn't give me a 40-year. Brenda's gotten a 30-year.
No, commitment.
Oh, we've been in.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
45
been over 40 years.
Wow. Waleena, so we're gonna go ahead and get ready to close, but I do want to give you the opportunity to share kind of what you're feeling, what this experience is like for you. When I was an undergrad, Waleena tried to make it to the graduation, and a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
And, the day that she was flying out, and she was unable to make it, and she was devastated, just broke down on the phone. And now you're here. So, like, I tell people, too, like, everybody's here for graduation, but there are a lot of many stories that are taking place here, you know what I'm saying, this weekend.
Exactly.
And I was reflecting on that just yesterday, and I was like, man, like, this is my mom's first time meeting my social worker of how many years?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I have, like, one of my advisors from college coming in. I have my home friends. I have my friends that I met at Bennett. I have my friends that I met studying abroad, all in the same house, you know. And so they're like all these layers and people having a different angle of even me that I've used the same lens looking at everybody, you know. And I'm just watching everybody engage and see how, you know. So like that's why I think this experience for me is kind of like me also realizing that we all have our own angles and stories and how we experience our histories as well. You know what I'm saying? And so I want for you, because you call me a lot to talk to me about just kind of what you're thinking about in terms of the responsibility you're left with at home, right? You've carried the weight at home because I haven't been there, and you know our brothers are not well enough to be there. And you're here, and you've made it here. You've had some adversities in getting here too. Yeah. You know, even just in the last week. So,
right.
What is this like for you? I want to.
Well, I just knew, going back to drawing a parallel, how you said when your students will say everything is happening too smoothly, they self-sabotage. I did start to think something's going to happen. I'm not going to make it. I started to get that anxiety, internal anxiety that there's going to be a reason why we don't make it. There's going to be a reason, something, anything. And so, yes, that adversity that came up last week, I had to get my car out of impact. Everything was just happening. I quit my job. We finally make it to the airport, and we're getting stopped through security check. And it's like, oh, my mind just 30 minutes prior.
So your heart is pounding at every...
Just like, we're not going to make it. Here we go. Thank you.
I'm like, yes, we are.
Right. And so, it feels great to have, like, to make it here. I'm so proud of you. As you know, I tell you every other day. But this is, as my mother feels, this is like inspiring, right? Because even on the way here, it's like, I'm looking up schools, right? It's like, what do I want my next step to be? Now that I'm in a position where I have stability with housing, now that I have the flexibility with time because I'm not working anymore, I need to like reevaluate myself right now while I'm in this position. And so just like, I feel like this is so much more, like me being here is so much more than my sister graduating from Harvard, because I've seen all of the pieces. Like, I've seen your evolution, like, leading up to this. Like, it's so much more than where you're graduating from, and the network and the connections that you have is more so like this is your livelihood. And the fact that I have been present through every step to watch you literally build your life, it's powerful to me. And I keep crying. Sorry. But it's emotional because in the grand scheme of things, you're like, oh, you tell your friends and your family, oh yeah, Darish is this, Darish is that. You brag, right? But when you sit down and you like just think about the steps that it took for you to get here, it's like, it's powerful. Like, because I told you before, you did this on your own. Like, you did this, not, obviously you have a village, a very strong village, but it took you and your internal strength to kind of create that village that you wanted for yourself. Like, you get up and you go to school. You apply for you know what I'm saying? Like, you do the work. You've done the work. And to come from a background that you come from, it's like, that means a lot. And to sit up here and say that I've actually watched that and I'm not, like, seeing something on television and people are altering it is like, to me, I feel like I'm like, very fortunate to have you as an example. Like, you are like my first like leader, like my first like,
oh, little pook.
Shut up. But yeah, so this weekend means a lot to me. And even just like traveling with my grandmother, we took a picture when we got off the airport, because I'm like, Annette, like, we gotta get this. Like, we have to get this. We have not spent, this is the most, I'm 26 years old, and this is the most that I've ever spent time with my grandmother. Like, we got to get this. A mess and all. I asked the first person off the plane, can you take a picture of us?
Yeah.
Girl, our hair's all up. We look crazy. And it's like, but we have to capture this. Like, my mother even, like, I haven't traveled with Mom.
Yeah.
Like, Auntie, I've been with her all my life. And where have we been outside of California?
Yeah.
Like, this
is a lot of mini stories.
It's big. It really is. And even just like your friends who have adopted me as little sisters, it's like, it's interesting to see that you've met some of these people in the same places that you've met some of these people, like, that you're living with. School, right? A lot of these long-term relationships that you've built, they started from school.
Yeah.
Right? And so to just drag this and connect that and drag that on to the next one, it's just like, you're just collecting valuable people. And it's just like to see everybody in the same setting. It's just like, and I tell you guys all the time too, like with Dersh and her friends, everybody's doing something. So when you with Dersh and her friends, it's lit. Like y'all lit. All these ideas, you keep your journal, okay? Because all these ideas get to flowing, like you're just feeling like inspired. And so although I do get anxiety because I'm an ambivert, I'm excited to see.
Explain that to the people.
I'm an ambivert. So an ambivert is in between extro and intro. So when it comes to people that aren't like my people, I'm more of intro. And so like with Darisha having all of her like friends around, it's like I have like this like low level of anxiety because I'm like, let's see what this comes with, right? And so yeah, even though I'm fighting this, it's just like I'm actually really excited all at the same time to see like where everybody else is going next and what everybody is doing, and even the people that I seen when you first moved in, right? I haven't seen them since you first moved in, your Harvard friends. So just to even see their evolution and their next steps, I think is really exciting.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm excited, and this is something I'm going to take home with me.
I appreciate your time today, ladies. I literally, we're jetting to the next event. But I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to sit down and share and reflect, and even on camera, this is the first time that we're even starting this conversation since we've all been here. They got in at 2:30 this morning. You know, I didn't get to bed till like almost 5. But you know, I think it's really interesting that like even right now, this is the first time that we're having this conversation, and so I want to encourage families everywhere who have come from some of the same traumatic experiences that that we've experienced, be it addiction, be it incarceration, child welfare, healthcare, employment, mental health. Mental health is a thing too.
Sure.
To keep working through it. And I think you have something to add.
I just wanted to say that to remove this fog, and I just thought about this, we always knew, me and Brenda always knew that you girls were going to go somewhere. The boys we didn't quite know because, in the African American community, we have different thought process about boys than girls. But we always knew that the girls would, even from kid, you guys were always reading, studying, doing homework, and wanting to do something.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
And I think just to add on to that, I think it maybe you might have approached it with some level of bias too, right? Like growing up, if you've only ever seen women do.
No, I think it's because our relationship with boys is more tentative than it is with girls.
Yeah.
Sure.
You really don't have to worry too much about a girl in this society except her physical getting attacked or something. But a boy from birth in the United States, in a black family, there's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, they're supported longer periods of time, and I think it stifles their development over a period of time. Yeah,
Well,
which is a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
but you know what we're talking about.
yeah, yeah. They have a movie on that, Baby Boy. Literally,
The girls, they're gonna let them out the gate. They're gonna, but boys, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. So thank you, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
I hope you guys have the best rest of the week. We have lots of celebrations before us. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
love you guys.
Cheers.
Love you too.
I love you.